They say being the oldest makes you stronger. Maybe. Or maybe it just teaches you to disappear quietly. I'm Ethan Miller, 33, Director of Human Resources at Stratton Corporation, right in the heart of Chicago. Office with a skyline view, tailored suits, espresso on tap. From the outside, I'm the definition of someone who made it. But the truth, I've been running on empty since I was 9. I grew up in a modest home outside the city. My dad, Robert, was a strict man. Calculated. Thought logic could replace empathy. My mum left when I was 10, so it was just him, me, and my 2 younger brothers, Nathan, 2 years younger, and Kyle, the baby of the family. When Kyle was born, I remember Dad handing me the baby while saying, "Hold him tight, I've got work calls." That one time turned into a habit. Soon I was making bottles and changing diapers while other kids rode bikes after school. I became the default backup parent. Nathan struggled with math. I tutored him. Kyle had a fever at 2 a.m. I stayed up, not Dad. By age 14, I was cooking meals from scratch because Dad believed frozen pizza wasn't nutritious. One night, I burned the lasagna. Dad didn't yell. He looked at me, calm as always, and said, "Next time, check the oven timer. You're in charge of dinners from now on." That was my childhood. Quiet expectations that morphed into permanent assignments. By high school, my identity wasn't Ethan, the kid who draws, or Ethan, who plays drums. I was Ethan, the guy who had everything handled. Chores, groceries, broken faucets, you name it. At 17, I was already the family anchor, whether I liked it or not. I remember once asking Dad if I could audition for a local theatre production. Something small, just a weekend gig. He looked confused. "And who's going to take Kyle to his soccer matches while Nathan studies for finals?" I let it go. People like me don't say no. We just adjust. And the more I adjusted, the more they leaned in. Sacrifice became muscle memory. My dreams slowly turned into someone else's comfort, but I didn't snap yet, because at the time I still believed that family meant something. That if I kept showing up, one day they'd do the same for me. Spoiler, they didn't. Senior year, spring break, I had one plan: Miami. I'd been working part-time at a local coffee shop for half a year, grinding through weekends and late nights after class. I saved every dollar like it was sacred. Booked my flight, packed my suitcase. My friends and I even mapped out every beach stop, taco truck, and late-night diner. The night before we were set to leave, Dad called me into the living room. He had that same expression he always wore when he was about to drop a family needs come first speech. "Ethan," he started, "Kyle's sick. Nathan's tied up with school. We need you to watch your brothers for the week." I blinked. "Wait, what? I have a plane ticket. I've been planning this for months." Dad sighed, like I'd somehow forgotten my role. "Your grandmother, who was supposed to stay with them, fell ill. This is urgent. I wouldn't ask if there was any other option." "And Grandpa?" I asked, holding onto one last shred of hope. "He's got work, of course." Then came the dagger. "You're the only one we can count on." I knew what that really meant. You're the only one who'll say yes. So I cancelled the trip, ate the cancellation fees, spent that week at home microwaving soup, helping Nathan prep for a midterm, and making sure Kyle took his meds on time. A week later, I found out Dad hadn't gone to see Grandma at all. He and his buddies had gone to a cabin for a wellness retreat. When I confronted him, he barely flinched. "Sometimes adults need a break too, Ethan." "Right." That was the moment I realized they didn't see me as a son. I was just staff, reliable, always available. I still went to college, landed a scholarship, worked double shifts at a campus bar and a nearby diner to keep the bills paid. But then came the next hit. Nathan got accepted into Stanford. No scholarship. Outrageous tuition. Dad called me, full of excitement. "Ethan, great news! But we're going to need your help." I knew what that meant. It wasn't a question. "I barely have enough for myself," I said, already calculating what corners I could cut. Dad brushed past it. "But you're working, right? Nathan wants to focus on his studies. He can't juggle jobs like you. You've always been resourceful." So I picked up another job. 2 years passed in a blur of aching feet, missed classes, and ramen dinners. My roommates joked I lived at work more than home. I smiled, laughed with them, and then went back to wiping down counters until 1 a.m. When graduation day came, I stood on stage in a wrinkled gown. My father showed up alone, said Kyle had exams, and Nathan was at a tech conference. No photos, no group hug. "Proud of you, son," he said. "I knew you'd get through it." Yeah, because I didn't have the option to fail. They say resilience is a virtue. But sometimes it's just the fancy word for being left with no choice. I got hired at Stratton Corporation the summer after graduation, entry-level HR analyst. 30 fresh faces joined that year, bright-eyed, overdressed, gripping coffee like it held the secret to adulting. I wasn't the smartest or the most charismatic, but I was the one who never left early, never missed a deadline, never said that's not my job. It was second nature. You grow up raising your siblings, you get used to working without thanks. By year 2, I was promoted to lead analyst. By year 5, I was managing a team of 10. And by year 7, I was sitting at the top floor, glass office, director plaque on the door, and a view of the Chicago skyline that looked like a photo from a life I wasn't living. From the outside, everything looked right, but every milestone came with a family favor attached. When Nathan married his college girlfriend, I handled the wedding logistics, venue, catering, vendor contracts. 2 weeks before the event, I was drowning in quarterly reports and HR audits, but I still coordinated florals and rewrote the ceremony schedule when the officiant cancelled last minute. "Ethan, you're so organised," Dad said like it was a compliment. It wasn't. It was expectation dressed as flattery. Kyle married the next year his high school sweetheart. I took care of their down payment gift. I also helped them move twice. And when their first daughter Ellie was born, I visited every weekend, diapers, dishes, assembling IKEA cribs. Weekends became work days with fewer emails and more spit up. It wasn't that I didn't love my niece. I did. I still do. But love doesn't mean I signed up to be their emergency backup life support. Still, I said yes. Always yes. They had this way of presenting chaos like it was a gift I should be honoured to fix. One time, Kyle left Ellie's diaper bag at home during a park trip. Called me mid-meeting. "Ethan, I know you're busy, but could you swing by the house and drop it off?" And I did. I always did. By 32, I was the guy they called for weddings, childcare, emergency repairs, sick days, emotional breakdowns, and somehow tax advice. My life didn't revolve around mine. It revolved around theirs. I'd tried dating a few women. Some even made it past the second month. But it always ended the same way. "Why are you always so tired?" Another family thing? You're always available for them. One breakup happened the same night I left dinner early to babysit Kyle's kids after his nanny quit without notice. My girlfriend texted me, "I'm not dating your whole family, Ethan." And she was right. But I didn't know how to stop. Then came my 33rd birthday. I planned nothing big, just some quiet time, maybe a glass of scotch and a Netflix backlog. Still, I expected something. A call. A text. Hell, even a meme in the group chat. But the day came and went. Nothing. No messages, no happy birthday from Dad, not even a typo-ridden text from Nathan or a "Hey, big bro" from Kyle. That night, I sat alone in my apartment. I poured myself a drink, looked out over the city lights, and said it out loud because no one else had. "Happy birthday, Ethan." The next morning, my phone lit up. A text from Kyle. "Hey man, sorry we missed your birthday. Hope it was chill. Quick favor, Christina's teething like crazy and we haven't slept in days. Can you come over this weekend? Even just a few hours would help. You're so good with the kids." No acknowledgement, no apology, just another ask, neatly wrapped in flattery. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I did what I always did. I said yes. I told myself it was just this one time, that I'd draw the line eventually. But that line kept moving. Every week, every year, every ask. A few months later, Jason, my assistant, knocked on my office door. "Ethan, call for you." "It's Kyle." I nodded and put down the budget report. "Hey," I said, "everything all right?" His voice was upbeat. "Totally. So listen, Dad's turning 60 in 2 months. And he's retiring. We thought it'd be great to do something big." "Sure," I said cautiously. "What kind of something?" "A surprise trip. Like a full-week getaway. Adults only. Just the core family. No kids, no chaos, pure recharge." I raised an eyebrow. "All right, sounds fun. What's the budget?" He hesitated. "That's the thing. Nathan's still sorting out finances post-divorce. And I've got Ellie's school payments, so we were hoping you could cover a bit more." How much more? When he told me the number, I nearly choked. 3 months of my salary. That's not a bit, Kyle. I know. But this is Dad we're talking about. You know how much he's done for us." I wanted to laugh, but instead I sighed. "Fine. I'll transfer it tonight." "Oh, and make sure you block off that week. Don't let work book anything. It's a full surprise." I stared at the call screen long after he hung up. I wasn't even surprised anymore. Not by the money. Not by the assumption. Not by the fact that no one even pretended to ask me if I wanted to go. Just another thing I was supposed to fund, fix, facilitate. Still, I didn't say anything. Not yet. The next few weeks flew by in spreadsheets, hiring pipelines, and late-night meal preps. Whenever I asked about the trip, I got vague responses. "It's all coming together," or "You'll love it." Eventually, I stopped asking. I had a deadline to hit, a department to restructure, and ironically, a seminar to prepare on workplace boundaries. When the day of the big birthday trip finally arrived, I shut down my laptop with a rare sense of closure. Deal closed. Inbox clean. Phone off. Just this once, I allowed myself to look forward to something. I drove over to Dad's place, suitcase in the trunk, heart cautiously open. But when I got there, the only ones waiting for me were Ellie, Max, Sophie, and Liam. 4 kids. No parents in sight. Just a note with my name on it. The street outside Dad's place was lined with familiar cars. Nathan's Tesla, Kyle's minivan, even Dad's outdated Honda, parked crooked on the driveway like always. I remember thinking briefly that maybe they really had pulled off something special this time. Maybe they had gotten it right. I rang the doorbell, suitcase in hand, ready to be surprised. Instead, the door creaked open, and Max, Kyle's 5-year-old son, blinked up at me. "Uncle Ethan!" he yelled, throwing himself at my knees. I ruffled his hair, scanning behind him. "Hey, Max! Where's everyone?" He shrugged, like I'd just asked where clouds come from. "They left." I stepped inside slowly. The living room was chaos, toys everywhere, Ellie's bottle on the floor, Sophie's shoes on the table for some reason. No adult in sight. Wait, what do you mean he left? Grandpa said you'd be here soon, Max said. He told us to stay quiet till you got here. That's when I saw an envelope on the dining table. My name in my father's handwriting. I opened it. Hands shaking, heart rate rising. Ethan, we've already left for the trip. It's adults only. After decades of child rearing, we all need time to unwind without the kids. You understand, right? We stocked the fridge, and there's a list of instructions on the counter. Alex's meds are at 4 p.m. Enjoy your week. Love, Dad. P.S. Babysitting service was full. But the kids are comfortable with you, and this was the only way it would work out. Don't take it the wrong way. Just do your best, like you always do. My hands went cold. The money I had wired for this trip, the surprise, the celebration was used to fund their vacation without me. Without even asking, they left me behind like a part-time nanny they forgot to fire. I called Dad. Straight to voicemail. Then Kyle. Nothing. Nathan finally picked up on the third try. His voice was tentative, already guilty. You at the house? Where are you? A pause. The resort. Sunnyside. It's incredible. Infinity pool, spa. You left me with 4 kids and didn't even tell me. Nathan's voice flattened. Look, this wasn't my idea. Dad figured you'd understand. You've always been the calm one, the responsible one, and you're great with the kids. You didn't even ask. We were worried you'd say no. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. You used my money, Nathan. The first mean. You earn more than all of us combined. You left me here with no warning, and you think this is okay because I have a stable job? He didn't respond. Max just told me to make Ellie's formula. She's crying. The emergency contact sheet says I'm the only backup. Another long silence. We didn't mean to hurt you, Ethan. No, of course not. Because to them, I wasn't a person. I was the fallback plan, the safety net, the unpaid support system they never thought twice about using. I'm not doing it, I said quietly. What? I'm calling a professional sitter. I'm leaving. I deserve a vacation too. No, wait, you can't. Max has anxiety with strangers. Ellie's still teething. That's your problem, Nathan, not mine. And I hung up. For a second, I stood still, breathing in the chaos. Then I picked up my phone again, this time for real help. First, I called the police. Then Child Protective Services. I explained everything. The abandonment, the lack of consent, the note. The fact that these children were left with someone who was not a legal guardian and never agreed to be one. They took it seriously. Then I sent a group message to the entire family. The children have been left in my care without consent or prior notice. I've contacted the police and CPS return immediately. This is child neglect. The fallout was instant. Calls, texts, missed FaceTime attempts. I didn't answer a single one. Instead, I sat on the floor with the kids, played blocks, fed Ellie, held Sophie when she started to cry. It wasn't their fault. An hour later, police officers arrived, followed by a CPS social worker. I showed them the note, the texts, explained that I was not the children's legal guardian and had not agreed to this arrangement. They nodded, serious and firm. When the front door finally burst open, Kyle was the first in, followed by Nathan, then Dad, panting and red-faced. "What the hell, Ethan?" Kyle barked. "You called the cops?" A uniformed officer stepped forward. "Sir, please remain calm. Are you the legal guardian of these children?" Dad stepped up. "I'm their grandfather." The officer nodded. "You left minors unattended, without legal arrangements. That's abandonment. But Ethan was supposed to watch them. I shook my head. I wasn't. No one asked. No one confirmed. You all assumed. The social worker requested IDs from everyone. Then, one by one, they were escorted out. I stayed behind with the kids, comforting them as the sun began to dip behind the skyline. That night, they were booked for child neglect. Not arrested, but cited. It would go on record. They came home past midnight silent, shaken, unsure what to say. The next morning, I called a meeting in the living room. Kids played in the next room. The air was thick. I've always said yes, I began. Even when I was exhausted, even when I had deadlines, even when I missed vacations, dates, birthdays. I did it because I thought that's what family did. No one spoke. But this was different. You took my money, my time, and my dignity. Without asking, and you expected me to smile through it. Dad opened his mouth, but I held up a hand. I'm not angry, I said. I'm done. Nathan's voice broke the silence. But you've always been the one we could count on. And you've always known that. That's why you never gave me a choice. Kyle's voice was low. You don't love the kids? I love them enough to know they deserve parents who don't outsource their responsibilities. And I love myself enough to say I'm not your free ride anymore. They sat in stunned silence. This time, I said, standing up, you deal with the consequences. I walked out. No yelling. No grand exit. Just the quiet snap of a thread that had been pulled too tight for too long. The story made its way around quietly, no headlines, no social media drama. Just official letters, court paperwork, and calls from numbers, labelled unknown. A month after the CPS report, my family stood in front of a judge. My father was charged with child neglect. Kyle and Nathan faced restricted custody arrangements, mandatory parenting classes, monitored visits, and a fine that stung deeper than they let on. Their lawyer tried to spin it as a misunderstanding. The judge didn't buy it. The real blow came later. Stratton Corporation's partner firm, which my father had consulted for years, severed ties, quietly, efficiently. The kind of corporate distancing that signals, we don't deal with people like you. Dad lost his job 3 weeks later. The family finances unravelled, not with a crash, but with a quiet, steady crumble. Legal fees ate through their reserves. The mortgage on the house, my childhood home, was refinanced in panic. Meanwhile, I did nothing. I didn't show up to court. I didn't respond to the calls or emails. I didn't check in when they texted group messages like "just want to talk." Please respond. The silence wasn't anger, it was clarity. And it felt clean. Jason, my assistant, never asked for details. But he noticed the shift. I started taking real lunch breaks. I logged off on weekends. I declined calendar invites that said optional and started meaning it when I said no. A year passed. I travelled. Portugal in spring, Kyoto in fall, a friend's cabin in Montana for Christmas, no phone signal, just books, firewood, and people who didn't expect anything from me beyond conversation and coffee. I started volunteering at a local mentorship program. Most of the kids there came from fractured homes. One of them, Marcus, reminded me of myself at 15, wound tight with responsibility that wasn't his. I wasn't trying to save anyone, just showing up, listening, and walking away at the end of the session with nothing weighing on my shoulders. It was the freest I'd felt in decades. Then, one rainy Tuesday, Jason poked his head into my office. "There's someone here to see you," he said. "She didn't make an appointment. Says she's your mother." My pulse stuttered. "Let her in," I said after a pause. The door opened, and in stepped the version of Dad I hadn't seen before, smaller, quieter. Lines etched deep into his face, shoulders caved in. Not the man who used to command silence with a single look. "Ethan," he said softly. I nodded, but didn't stand. "What do you want?" He looked down, twisting his wedding band like a nervous tick. "We're on the verge of losing everything." Nathan's custody appeal failed. Kyle's wife left him. I've burned through my retirement funds. He met my eyes. We need help. Alone. Just enough to stay afloat. There it was. I thought I'd feel rage, vindication, maybe even guilt. But I just felt done. I leaned back in my chair. "Do you remember my birthday?" he blinked. "What?" "Last year, the one where no one called. No one texted. The day you all left me with 4 kids and a note. I didn't think no, you didn't. And that's the whole problem." His jaw tightened. "I'm still your father. And I was your son," I said. "The one who raised your kids. The one who funded your vacations. The one who got left behind with no apology." He started to speak, but I held up a hand. "You don't get to ask for more from me." "Not anymore," his voice cracked. "We're still family. Family respects each other," I said. "You treated me like a resource, like a walking solution. I wasn't your son, I was your contingency plan." He bowed his head. I waited. When he said nothing else, I ended it. "I hope you figure it out, but not with my help." He stood slowly. "You've changed." I gave him a small smile. That's the point. When he left, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt steady. I stood up, walked to the window, and watched the skyline flicker through the rain. Chicago was grey, quiet. I liked it that way. Sometimes people think revenge has to be loud public exposure, legal drama, social media takedowns. But this silence, this peace, this was mine, and it was the most powerful thing I'd ever claimed. Epilogue. It's been another year. The calls stopped. The texts slowed, then faded. Kyle and Nathan are rebuilding. I don't know how. I'm not tracking their progress anymore. I heard through a friend that Dad sold the house. Probably moved somewhere quieter, cheaper. He still owes fines. Still checks my LinkedIn every few months. Never says a word. The kids, Max, Ellie, Sophie, and Liam, I think about them more often than I want to admit. Sometimes I wonder if they'll grow up and ask questions. I hope they do. I hope someone gives them the truth. But they're not mine to save. Not anymore. I have a new apartment. Smaller, but full of light. Real art on the walls. A dog that doesn't expect me to fix her life just to walk her and toss a tennis ball now and then. Last weekend, I hosted a dinner. 8 people. Friends, not family. There was laughter, wine, dishes stacked in the sink like a badge of joy. When someone asked me about my family, I said, "They're complicated." And then we moved on. Because sometimes the greatest revenge isn't destruction, it's reconstruction. And I've finally built a life that's mine. Story 2. Thanksgiving's always been complicated for my family. It's the one time a year we all pretend to like each other long enough to pass mashed potatoes. So when I showed up last year with a bottle of Tempranillo and a half smile, I didn't expect warmth. I expected endurance. I expected snide comments, surface level small talk, and my sister trying to one-up me with her kids' latest achievements. But what I didn't expect was a literal exile over turkey. Before we start carving, my sister stood up with a glass of Pinot and that sugar-coated voice that always meant something cruel was coming. "We need to say something." I felt the air shift. Forks froze mid-air. Even my niece stopped humming at her iPad. "This wasn't a toast. We had a vote," she said. Like this was a family democracy, and not just a group of people who shared DNA and trauma. "And we've decided You're not part of the family anymore. Silence. Then laughter. Not nervous laughter, actual cheers. My cousin Nick whooped like she'd scored a touchdown. My aunt clapped. My dad? He just nodded like this was overdue. Even my mum chuckled and said, "Well, someone had to say it." I sat still, my face warm but my spine freezing over. I glanced at the stuffing on my plate, suddenly cold. "Wow, you guys actually rehearsed this," I said softly, pushing back from the table, like it's some kind of play. Tanya, my sister, the ringleader, beamed like she'd just won a pageant. "You've been toxic for years," she said. "We're done pretending." "You're not family," Mum added, scooping cranberry sauce like she hadn't just gutted me. No one objected. Not Uncle Matt, who I once stayed up with all night in college when he thought his wife was leaving him. Not Aunt Lou, whose rent I covered for 3 months when her divorce went south. Not even my dad, who I practically co-signed into retirement after his back surgery. "Good," I said, standing slowly. I figured this might happen. I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder, thick, neatly labelled. I set it in the centre of the table. Thunk. Tanya flinched at the sound. "What's that?" she asked. "Go ahead," I said, settling back in my chair. "See for yourself." She snatched it up like she was expecting me to confess to some crime. Her smug smile collapsed almost instantly. First page, a screenshot of a $4,200 transfer. My name. Her account. Her memo, emergency credit card bill. She told me it was to avoid collections. The next week, she posted a beach pic tagged in Malibu. Page 2, a breakdown of the last 5 years. Line items. Dates. Venmo receipts. Bank wires. Even screenshots of her texts begging for help when Joel, her now husband, got fired for the 3rd time. "Is this real?" Joel asked, taking the folder as Tanya backed away like it was on fire. I nodded. Every cent, every favour, every screenshot. He turned to the Santa Monica hotel charge and whispered, "Who's Cara?" No one laughed now. You could hear someone's fork hit the tile in the kitchen. "Let me guess," I said. "You didn't think I kept records. You thought I'd just disappear quietly." "Be the good little doormat." Tanya's eyes darted toward Mum. "This is a violation," she snapped. "You had no right, no right." I stood. "You just declared me dead to the family. Publicly." With a round of applause. "And now you're upset because I brought receipts?" Joel was flipping pages fast now, his face draining. "You said this was all in the past," he muttered. "I didn't lie," Tanya shot back, her voice cracking. "No," I said. "You just conveniently forgot the parts that made you look bad." Mum finally spoke again. "Can we just calm down? Let's not ruin Thanksgiving." "Sure," I said with a smile. "Let's ruin it with the truth instead." Her face fell. Dad said nothing. He just looked tired, or ashamed, or maybe both. I continued, my voice quiet but sharp. "You all decided I wasn't family. Not because I hurt you, not because I betrayed you, but because I stopped funding your dysfunction." Tanya let out a bitter laugh. "Oh, please, you're just mad we don't need you anymore." I tilted my head. "You never needed me. You used me." She rolled her eyes. "You offered." "Yeah, because I thought that's what family did." I turned to Joel. "Check the date on that $8,000 transfer, the one labelled RAB deposit. That was for you." He froze. "Or maybe the $3,100 for Tanya's veneers," she called, medically urgent. "Remember that." Tanya opened her mouth, closed it. Nothing came out. I turned to the rest of them. "You don't get to vote someone out and then act like the victim when they finally stand up." Mum looked up, her voice suddenly small. You kept all of this? I nodded, because no one else remembered or cared. Silence again, then my final move. I reached into my coat pocket and slid another envelope across the table. Joel caught it, opened it. Power of attorney revocation, he read. Medical proxy revoked. Emergency contact updated. I looked around. I'm not your ATM, I'm not your emotional dump truck, and I'm not your scapegoat. I'm out. Legally, emotionally, permanently. I grabbed my coat and headed for the door. And for the first time in a decade, no one followed me. I didn't drive home right away. I left their house, turned off my phone, and just drove. No destination. Just me, the dark road, and the feeling in my chest I couldn't quite name. Not peace yet, not relief, just stillness, like the noise had finally stopped. I ended up near Millbrook Lake, the spot Dad used to take me fishing when I was a kid. Funny how you circle back to the quiet places when things get loud. I parked, rolled down the window, and sat there, breathing in the cold night air until my fingertips went numb. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I owed anyone a damn thing. No one needed a check. No one was waiting for me to fix a crisis I didn't create. No one was pretending to love me just enough to keep me close, but not enough to treat me like a person. It was just me. I slept better that night than I had in years. No text messages at 2 a.m., no guilt-tripping voicemails. Just sleep, the real kind. The kind that doesn't come with knots in your stomach. But the silence didn't last long. 3 days after Thanksgiving, my phone lit up with a message from Mum. We were angry. That doesn't mean we stopped loving you. Please don't let this be forever. I didn't reply. Then Tanya tried. You don't even realize what you've done. Joel's filing for divorce. Hope you're proud. I just stared at the screen. Then came my dad. Short as always. This has gone far enough. We all said things we regret. But here's the thing, they didn't regret the way they treated me. They regretted the consequences. They weren't sorry I walked away. They were sorry they lost access. Because once the money stopped, the apologies started. A week later, my cousin Nick messaged me. The same Nick who clapped when they voted me out. I didn't know you paid for my tuition. I'm sorry. I followed the crowd. I didn't answer. Not because I hated him, but because sometimes silence is the only response that says everything. Then Joel. Joel surprised me. He sent a long message, not dramatic, just honest. I filed. Everything in that folder checked out. She lied. About the hotel, about the money, about you. I believed her for a long time. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. Then he added, you did the right thing. I should have left years ago. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just read it twice and put my phone down. And something strange happened after that. Life started to feel easy. I started running in the mornings again, cooked actual meals. Caught up with friends I hadn't seen in years because every free weekend had been swallowed by family obligations. No one was asking me for favours, rides, loans, or help with paperwork. No one was passive-aggressively reminding me I didn't have kids or a spouse. Like that somehow made me less valuable. For the first time, my time was mine. A few weeks later, I applied for a job in a different city. Nothing wild, just something new. I'd been in the same company, same apartment, same routine for years. It was time. Not because I was running away, but because I was finally free to move. Then came the Christmas campaign, December 2020, a picture from Mum. Their living room, tree half decorated, stockings on the mantel. And right in the centre, a big, gaping space where the presents used to pile up. It doesn't feel the same without you, she wrote. Ellie keeps asking where Uncle Ben is. No apology, no ownership. Just guilt wrapped in tinsel. I didn't respond. December 23rd, Tanya called. I didn't answer. Then a message, I know I messed up. But you don't have to punish everyone. Just come by for Ellie. She misses you. 2 minutes later also. Mum and Dad are behind on the mortgage. I know you don't care anymore, but the bank called today. Thought you'd want to know. And there it was, the ask. It always came. No matter how it started, grief, nostalgia, regret, it always ended the same way. I blocked her number. December 24th. Dad texted, "You made your point. Enough is enough. We need help. Still your blood." That night I sat in my apartment, a glass of wine in hand, fireplace on, no tree, no noise, just me. They always said I'd regret choosing solitude over family, that I'd be alone and miserable. But the silence, it felt like peace. January brought something unexpected. A phone call from a number I didn't recognize. "Is this Benjamin Lowell?" the man asked. "Yes." "Who's calling?" "My name's Marcus. I'm calling on behalf of your father. He mentioned you're the primary executor of the family trust." I blinked. I revoked that in November. It was finalized. They were notified. My attorney sent the paperwork. A pause. "I see," he said. "Your father couldn't reach you directly. He asked me to explore some options. They're in a bit of a bind." "Not my problem," I said, and hung up. But the real kicker came in February, a handwritten letter, no return address, but I'd know Mum's handwriting anywhere. 3 pages. Page 1, regret. "We said things we didn't mean. You've always been the strong one. We leaned on you more than we should have." Page 2, guilt. "Your father's health is declining. Tanya's a mess. Ellie asks about you every day." Page 3, the ask. "We're selling the house, but we're underwater. Just need a little help to get through this. Then we'll never ask again. Please, Ben. For your father. For the family." I read it twice. Then I folded it, walked into the kitchen and dropped it in the trash. Because that wasn't a letter about family. That was a letter about control. They didn't want me back. They wanted the version of me who said yes without hesitation, who paid without questions, who showed up even when he wasn't invited. But that version of me, he's gone. And for the first time, I didn't feel sad about it. I felt solid. March rolled in like a slow tide. I moved into a new apartment, clean, bright, a bit bigger than I needed, but it felt good. Like I was giving myself room to grow. No more waiting for someone to text me needing something. No more holding my breath during family dinners. I had a space now that didn't echo with old guilt. It was strange, at first, how quiet life became. I used to equate silence with loneliness, but now silence felt like a deep exhale, the kind where your shoulders finally drop after years of being tight. I went to the farmer's market on Saturdays, started going to therapy not because I was falling apart, but because I finally had the space to heal. Not patch, not cope, heal. I wasn't angry anymore. Not really. The anger had burned off. What remained was a kind of cold clarity, like when a storm clears and everything's still damp, but you can finally see the sky. Every once in a while, a message would slip through. A cousin I hadn't heard from in years messaged on Instagram. "I didn't realize how much you were doing for everyone. Just wanted to say, I get it now." I didn't reply. Not out of spite. I just didn't need to. This wasn't revenge. It was release. Then, last week, a letter came. No envelope this time. Just folded paper slipped into my mailbox like someone had driven by and dropped it in. 3 words. "We're still family." That was it. No name. No explanation. Just a final little tug on the line they'd always used to reel me back in. And for the first time, I didn't feel pulled. I didn't feel sad, or guilty, or tempted. I felt nothing. I folded the note, set it on my counter, and made dinner. Chicken and rice. Sauteed vegetables. I ate slow, mindful. Nothing rushed, no phone buzzing, no background anxiety. Just dinner. The next day, I shredded the letter. Because here's the truth, no one likes to say out loud, not everyone who shares your blood is your family. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is walk away from the people who taught you love meant sacrifice without return. I spent years carrying their weight, being the backup plan, the fixer, the one who always had to be okay so they didn't have to be. And the moment I stopped, they called me cold, ungrateful, dramatic. But I wasn't being dramatic. I was being done. It's funny. I used to think strength meant staying, enduring, being the reliable one, the bigger person. Now I know better. Strength is leaving the table when respect is no longer being served. It's saying no and not apologizing for it. It's understanding that love without boundaries isn't love, it's leverage. People have asked me quietly, do you think they'll ever change? Honestly, I don't care. Maybe they will. Maybe Tanya will wake up one day and see what she became. Maybe Mom will stop weaponizing guilt. Maybe Dad will speak up instead of sitting in silence. But that's not my journey to wait on anymore. My job isn't to fix them. My job is to live. Fully. Finally. And I am. New job, new city, new routines. I joined a volunteer program at the community centre. Nothing big. Just tutoring kids after school a couple times a week. They don't know my history. They don't care that I walked away from a family who once cheered when I was cut loose. They just know I show up when I say I will. And that's enough. Some nights I still think about Ellie, Tanya's kid. She didn't do anything wrong. She just had the bad luck of being born into a family that thinks love is something you earn through loyalty, not something you give because you care. I hope she figures it out faster than I did. But I also know this, I set an example, maybe the only one she'll get, that it's okay to walk away, that silence can be strength, that choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's sacred. So if she ever finds herself standing at a fork in the road with guilt on one side and freedom on the other, maybe she'll remember her uncle walked toward the quiet and didn't look back. And he turned out just fine. Actually, better than fine, free. Final note, if you're reading this, wondering if you should go back, wondering if maybe you were too harsh, too distant, too cold, I get it. I spent years thinking that love meant self-erasure. It doesn't. It means honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. It means setting fire to the idea that you have to keep bleeding to prove you care. So, no, I don't miss them. I miss who I thought they were. But I don't miss being needed more than I was ever wanted. And now I'm not surviving their love. I'm living in mine. Thanks for listening. Still standing, still breathing, still here. Story 3. I was halfway through my shift at the warehouse when my phone buzzed for the 5th time in 10 minutes. I didn't even check the screen. I already knew who it was. Let me guess first, it was Bree, my sister. Her texts are always a weird mix of emojis and guilt. Then Mom, with her signature brand of weaponized concern. And finally, Dad. Short. Cold, final. His favourite communication method is silence with a dash of disapproval. 21 missed calls. I counted. I let the phone drop onto the dusty break room table like it burned. My name's Marcus, the first 28. I work 2 jobs, early shifts, moving freight at a distribution centre, and late-night security shifts at a parking garage twice a week. 3 months ago, I sold my car so my younger sister could enroll in this transformational, soul-aligning, leadership intensive course. That was her phrase, not mine. She called it life-changing. I called it expensive, but she said it would open doors. Mum said it was an investment. No one mentioned who'd be footing the bill. Spoiler alert, it wasn't Mum. That 2011 Honda Civic was the first thing I ever bought outright. It had a cracked taillight, a sticky driver side window, and it still ran smoother than my family relationships. Selling it felt like losing a part of my independence. But I did it. For Bri. She dropped out of the course after 3 weeks, said it was emotionally unsafe and that she wasn't ready to confront her internalized trauma. I didn't even pretend to understand what that meant. I just went back to walking to work in the snow. And now they want me to do it again. Except this time, it's not for her. It's for her boyfriend. Yeah, that's where we are. It all started predictably at Sunday dinner. You'd think after everything, I'd have learned to stop showing up to these things. But I hadn't missed one since last year's Christmas truce. I was trying, still playing the role of the good son, the reliable older brother. The food was the same as always: overcooked meatloaf, watery mashed potatoes, the smell of stale air freshener barely masking whatever burned in the oven earlier. Bri twirled her spaghetti like she was on a date night in Rome, not our mum's outdated kitchen with its flickering fluorescent light and microwave that made weird noises when you opened the door too fast. So, Marcus, Mum started, folding her napkin like she was closing a business deal. You remember Travis, right? Travis, man bun, faux leather jacket, lives in our guest room temporarily for the past 5 months. Technically unemployed, but claims he's between creative phases. Hard to forget, I said, stabbing my meatloaf. Well, she beamed. Travis got into this elite leadership institute, super exclusive, very inner work focused. Bri lit up like a birthday candle. I found it. Isn't that amazing? Incredible, I muttered, chewing cardboard beef. Dad finally looked up from his phone. It's not cheap, but we figured. You've always been generous. You've got that savings fund, right? I blinked. My fork froze in midair. Excuse me? Bri reached across the table and squeezed my arm like we were besties in a teen drama. Marcus, it's only $6,000. It could really change his life. Just like mine. I let out a dry laugh. Your life changed for 3 weeks. She flinched. Not fair, Mum gasped like I'd thrown a chair across the room. She tried, Bri snapped. It wasn't the right time, emotionally. I was too busy walking through sleet so you could work through your shadow chakras, I said. Dad slammed his fork down. That's enough. You're being selfish. That word. Selfish. I gave up my car, my mobility, my cushion, my weekends. But sure, let's slap that label on me again. We're just asking you to think about it, Mum said sweetly. We're a family. Family means sacrifice. It wasn't a question. It never was. That night, I lay in my tiny studio apartment, listening to the radiator rattle like it was trying to scream for me. I knew what was coming. The pattern was always the same. First, they'd guilt-trip me, then stonewall me, then manipulate me into giving in. Because in this family, saying no was never just a refusal. It was a betrayal. 3 days later, I got the email. Subject line, can you co-sign Travis's tuition? No greeting. Just a screenshot of the cost, $15,950. The message read, "He needs to submit payment by Friday. Don't overthink it." Right. Like I hadn't already stood at the bus stop for months in a city where winter punches you in the throat. Like I wasn't patching together rent with overtime and caffeine. I didn't respond. An hour later, I got a voicemail from Mum. "Honey, I saw you didn't reply. We're just trying to help Travis get on his feet. You know how hard it is for young men these days." Funny, no one ever worried about how hard it was for me. The group chat got renamed from Family Circle to Manifesting Travis's Potential. Dad dropped a thumbs up emoji. I muted the chat. The next message came from Bree. "Hey, I'm behind on rent again. Can you spot Mum the $1,200? I'll pay you back once I start doing tarot readings again." I stared at the message. Tarot readings. I didn't answer. Week 2, they stopped asking. They started showing up. One Sunday night, I heard the knock. Looked at the time, 9:42 p.m. Opened the door. There was Dad. "Thought I'd talk to you face to face," he said. I leaned on the doorframe, arms crossed. "About what?" "You know what. Let me guess, Travis. He needs this." "No," I said, voice steady. Dad blinked. "Excuse me?" I said no. He exhaled slowly, like he was trying to control a simmering temper. "You've changed." "Yeah," I said. "I had to. Or I'd end up like you." He stepped back, stung. Didn't say goodbye. The next morning, I woke up to another alert from the bank. At this point, I thought maybe I'd hit an overdraft limit or missed a bill. But this one was different. "Hello, Mr. Carter. We're just calling to confirm your recent co-signer application for Travis Reynolds' tuition financing." I froze. I hadn't submitted anything. And I sure as hell didn't co-sign a thing for Travis. I hung up and called Bree immediately. She actually answered, which surprised me. "Are you out of your mind?" I said, before she could even fake a greeting. "Whoa, why are you yelling? You used my info. You tried to take out a loan with my name. That's identity fraud. I didn't do anything. Travis handled it." "I thought he told you." "No, Bree. He didn't tell me. Because he forged my signature, used my social, and made up an income statement. That's not miscommunication. That's a felony." Silence on her end. Then, casually, "It's not that deep, Marcus. It didn't even go through. You're always so dramatic." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "I sold my car for you," I said quietly. "I gave up every bit of backup I had so you could chase something you didn't even finish. I'm walking to work in boots with holes while you and your boyfriend fake my identity like I'm a walking ATM." She didn't apologize. She didn't explain. She just said, "You always make money back. You're fine." That was the moment I stopped caring if they thought I was the bad guy. A week later, we had another one of those forced traditions family gratitude dinner. It's supposed to be about appreciation, but really it's about appearances. Mum makes too much food, Dad plays patriarch, and everyone pretends we're closer than we are. I didn't want to go, but I went. I think part of me needed to see it, to be done fully and finally. When I got there, the whole house smelled like garlic bread and tension. "Still single, Marcus?" Mum asked, smiling too wide. Bri was glowing. She wore this shiny new dress like she hadn't asked for rent help 2 weeks ago. Travis had even trimmed his beard and wore a collared shirt. I guess transformation starts with fashion. Dad was already half a glass into his whiskey, nodding along like the wise elder of a tribe he didn't build. The dining table was set with candles and silver name cards. One card stood out. "Congratulations, Travis, future transformational leader." They were celebrating him with my name on his loan form. I sat down, jaw tight. barely hearing anything until Mom raised a glass. To Travis and to Marcus, none of this would have been possible without your support. I didn't raise my glass. I didn't smile. I just looked at them. One by one, Bree leaned over and whispered, "We told Grandma you helped him get in," she cried. "She said, 'You're the real man of the family.' That did it." I turned to Travis and said, calm as ever, "You used my social security number. You forged a pay stub. You listed me as your co-signer on a loan I never agreed to." He blinked like a cartoon character caught mid-lie. "Dude, relax. It didn't even get approved. You still committed fraud." Bree's smile disappeared. "Mum said you'd probably be okay with it if we just moved forward." I stared at her. If I didn't find out? I stood up. No yelling, no plates crashing. Just quiet disappointment thick enough to choke the room. "This isn't a dinner," I said. "It's a celebration thrown with stolen silverware. Dad tried to cut in." "Marcus, don't be dramatic." "No, I'm being clear. You've all been feeding off me for years, calling it love, calling it family, but I see it now. I'm just your safety net, and I'm done." I walked to the kitchen drawer, pulled out a folder I'd brought with me. I printed it all out. Every expense I've covered, every bill, every last dollar transfer, Bree's rent, Mum's vet bill, Dad's bridge work. The laptop Travis broke and I replaced. The course fee, the loan application. I dropped the folder on the table. $127,400 in the last 12 months. Mum's jaw dropped. "We never asked for all that." "No," I said. "You just expected it." Bri crossed her arms. "So what? You want a medal?" "No, I want freedom. You're really going to walk away from this family?" I nodded. "After everything I gave?" "Yeah, I am." Then I pulled out my phone, hit play on the voicemail I'd saved. The bank rep's voice filled the room. "Attempted to use your information for a loan under the name Travis Reynolds." Everyone went quiet. "You recorded that?" Mum said, suddenly pale. "Yes, and I reported it to the authorities. With names." Travis stood, angry now. "You're overreacting." "No, I'm just reacting finally." Mum reached out, desperate. "Marcus, please, don't let this ruin us." I looked her dead in the eye. "I'm not angry. I'm done. I left before they could say anything else. Took the train home. Turned off my phone, blocked every number. New SIM, new email. Even changed apartments a few weeks later. I didn't give them a chance to spin it. No explanations, no follow-ups. And for the first time in my adult life, my phone was quiet. No missed calls, no Venmo requests, no urgent texts disguised as small talk. Just silence. And for once, it didn't feel like loneliness. It felt like peace. It's been 4 months since that dinner, since I laid the truth on the table and walked out. They tried to reach me at first. Texts, voicemails, emails with subject lines like "Please, just talk to us." I didn't respond to any of it. I didn't need to explain myself anymore. I'd done enough explaining in my life. Instead, I built something. It started small, just me on a second-hand bike, making late-night deliveries around the city. I was picking up extra cash, dropping off last-minute parts for repair shops, medical supplies, you name it. Fast jobs, quiet work. No one really noticed the guy in the hoodie on the bike, but I noticed everything. The gaps, the frustration, the missed pickups. Businesses needing speed and consistency, but stuck using slow apps or no-shows. So I built something of my own. I called it Deadweight. Yeah, because that's what I'd been carrying for years. Now, I turned the name into something sharp, real. It started with just me. Then a friend from the warehouse joined Luis, tech guy, smart as hell. He helped me build a clean back end. I handled logistics. We set rules, no middlemen, no fluff, just hustle. By month 2, we were hitting 100 orders a day. By month 3, a healthcare distributor reached out. They needed same-day delivery for urgent supplies. We made it happen. And one rule, no family. I went quiet, but my name didn't. A regional startup mag picked up our story. The headline read, "From rock bottom to resilient, how one man turned a broken family tie into a 6-figure startup." I didn't want the press, but I wanted them to see it. That week, I got 6 calls. 2 from Bree, 1 from Mum, 1 from Dad, texts too. "We're proud of you. Let's talk soon. Family first." I smiled, didn't reply. A week later, Mom emailed, "Can you help? Just this once." Apparently, Travis had lost his job. The program turned out to be a scam. Bree was spiritually overwhelmed and couldn't do readings. Rent was late. Utilities were past due. "You're doing well now. Please." "You're still family." I didn't respond. Instead, I bought the courier license for the block where my dad's hardware shop sits. Used to be his pride and joy. He once joked delivery guys were lazy dropouts. Now, our drivers control that whole district. We don't stop at his door. Business is business. 2 months later, I spoke on a panel for rising tech founders. Topic: knowing when to cut ties. I stood on that stage and said, sometimes the only way to grow is to disappoint the people who never saw your worth. After, I saw someone in the crowd familiar. Travis, same man, bun, less glow. He waited until the panel ended and came up to me. "Hey man," he said, fake casual. "Read the article. You really did it." I nodded. "Yeah, I did." He tried to laugh. "I've been thinking of starting something too. Coaching for guys in transition. Maybe we could collab, like full circle." "No." He blinked. "No, you stole from me. You lied. You used my name to fund your fantasy. That's in the past, man." "No," I said. "That's your past, not mine. I've moved on." "You should too. Bri misses you," he said, softening. "That's her problem." And I walked away. I never looked back, but I didn't disappear. I wrote about it all, put it on Deadweight's site as a long-form post, The Cost of Being Useful. I didn't name names. I didn't have to. The internet filled in the blanks. It went viral. 200,000 reads in 2 days. Shared on Reddit, Twitter, business forums. Captions like, "This is what it looks like when the scapegoat builds an empire." He carried them for years now. Look who's running. I didn't need their apology. I needed them to feel the absence they created. 1 year later, exactly 365 days after I walked out of that dinner, I got one final message from Mum. Subject line, "We're sorry." It was different this time. No ask, no manipulation, just honest. "We didn't realize how much we leaned on you. We assumed you'd always be there because you always were. You didn't leave the family. You left the roles we forced you into. And we're proud of you, even if we don't deserve to say it." I read it twice. Then I archived it. Now, I live on the top floor of a quiet building downtown, floor-to-ceiling windows. Real coffee in the morning. No alarms. My company runs without me most days. We've expanded to 4 cities. I've got an offer on the table, 7 figures. Might not take it. I don't need the money. I just like building things that can stand without leaning on anyone. Some nights I scroll through old voicemails, not to feel sad, just to remember how far I've come. Sometimes I drive past the old neighborhood. Bry's building? Up for foreclosure. Dad's shop? Half-staffed. Quiet. Travis? His coaching brand disappeared after 3 bad Yelp reviews and a Medium post that got him ratioed to hell. They don't see me, but I see them, still circling, still looking for someone to carry the weight. And me? I drive by in my new car, paid in full, quiet ride, leather seats, music up, window down, not in anger, not in triumph, just peace. I don't carry it anymore.